Welcome to SATV News. This is Shala Binti Shafi with the headlines. Dhaka Airport fire, smoke persists, efforts on to douse flames, extra flight fees to be waived for 3 days. No attempt to pit the BNP against the July uprising will succeed, says Salahuddin. Remarks come amid criticism from NCP and Jamaat. PC spineless, works with institutional autocracy, says Hasnat. Shapla can't be allotted at its not on official list. Smoke continued to billow from the remains of the cargo village at the Hazrat Shahjalal International Airport in Dhaka nearly 22 hours after a massive fire raged through the facility yesterday. By around 12 p.m. today, smoke was still rising from the charred structure as firefighters continued spraying water to douse the lingering flames. The fire has not been fully extinguished yet, which is why smoke is still coming out, said Rafi Ali Farooq, duty officer at the control room of Fire Service and Civil Defence Headquarters. 22 units of firefighters are working to douse the fire while also carrying out search operations, he added. Since morning, victims and curious onlookers have gathered near the cargo complex to witness the aftermath of the devastating blaze. However, law enforcement personnel are not allowing anyone to enter the restricted area. The massive fire, which started around 2:30 p.m. yesterday, burned goods stored at the facility, disrupting flights, causing long delays and diversions. Thick black smoke engulfed the airport and surrounding areas, visible from afar for hours. By 9:18 p.m., the fire service announced that the flames had been brought under the control. Around the same time, airport authorities said flight operations, including the return of flights diverted to other airports, had resumed. All charges and fees will be waived for non-scheduled additional flights for the next 3 days to ease passengers suffering after the fire incident at Dhaka Airport, said Commerce Advisor S.K. Bashiruddin on Sunday. A total of 21 flights were either diverted or cancelled on Saturday following the massive fire at the cargo village of Hazrat Shahjalal International Airport, he told the reporters after inspecting the post-fire situation at the airport. He said efforts began on Saturday night to assist passengers who travel abroad was disrupted, particularly those traveling for jobs, medical treatment or family emergencies. Flight operations resumed at 9 p.m. last night and have been running uninterrupted since then, he added. Expressing regret over passengers' inconvenience, Sheikh Bashiruddin said, "We arranged hotel accommodations, food and other necessary support for affected passengers. Despite our efforts, we sincerely apologize for the hardship we faced." Regarding losses, he said, "Our damage assessment is ongoing. The area where imported goods were stored has been completely damaged." Transport owners and workers at Chattogram Port withdrew their strike this afternoon after the Chittagong Port Authority CPA agreed to revoke a recently imposed hike in the port's gate pass fee. Containers carrying vehicles began entering the port again at around 3:30 p.m., ending nearly 2 days of disruption that had crippled operations at the country's principal seaport. BNP Standing Committee member Salahuddin Ahmed on Sunday said no attempt to pit the BNP against the July uprising will succeed. It would be wrong to think that a fascist ruler was toppled in just 36 days. This was the result of the 16 years of continued struggle and sacrifice. So I think any attempt to portray the BNP against the July uprising will never succeed, he said. Salahuddin made the remarks while speaking at a press conference at the BNP chairperson's Gulshan office. He said the July 2024 student-led mass uprising was not the work of any single political party, but the outcome of a long, continuous struggle by all political forces that stood against fascism. So far, our data show that 422 of our leaders and activists embraced martyrdom during the July student uprising. We have already published their names and photos, and the number may increase, the BNP leader said. He said the July uprising was built on the blood and sacrifices of BNP leaders and activists who fought against fascism for 16 years. The National Citizen Party (NCP) cannot be allocated Shapla as its election symbol since it is not included in the Election Commission's official list of approved symbols, Election Commissioner Anwarul Islam said today. Speaking to reporters after attending a training session at Sylhet police lines, Anwarul said according to the Constitution and electoral laws, the Shapla symbol does not exist in the Commissioner's approved list. Therefore, it cannot be assigned to any political party. Responding to a question about upcoming national election, he added there was no reason or incident that could delay the polls beyond February. The election will be held before Ramadan, he added. Assuring a fair and peaceful election, Anwarul said there is no scope for a repeat of past irregularities. No controversial individual will be given responsibility in the upcoming election process. He also emphasized that the EC will not tolerate any form of bias. Our sole objective is to conduct a free and credible election. All state institutions must perform their duties with coordination and mutual trust, he said. Addressing members of the police force, the election commissioner said, given the correct context of Bangladesh, no institution can claim to be completely spotless. Every sector carries the scars of the past. We must now work together to rebuild the public trust and institutional coordination. Hasnat Abdullah, chief organizer for the southern region of National Citizens Party (NCP), has rejected the Election Commission's EC attempts to assign them an alternative electoral symbol today, criticizing the EC as spineless. He also alleged the Commission is operating under an institutional autocracy after an NCP delegation visit in response to a letter demanding they choose a symbol other than the desired Shapla by the end of the day. Hasnat Abdullah articulated the party's hardline stance after meeting with EC Secretary Akhtar Ahmed as he expressed deep concerns about EC's conduct ahead of the national elections. Speaking on the EC's symbol allocation process, Hasnat alleged a complete lack of policy and a dictatorial mindset. The EC's attitude suggests that an institutional autocracy has been created. It appears as if there is no policy governing which symbols are given to which existing parties, he stated. It resembles the barbaric governance of the Middle Ages where the kings acted as they pleased. Their election commissioners' behavior is similar to that of kings and emperors. Hasnat further alleged that the EC has lost its agency. Gonu Forum today signed the July National Charter as the National Consensus Commission accepted its demand to retain the proclamation of independence in the Constitution. On the behalf of the Gonu Forum, its acting president and freedom fighter Subrata Chaudhary and General Secretary Mohammad Mizanur Rahman said the charter at the LD Hall of Jatiyo সংসদ ceremony. Professor Ali Riaz, Vice President of Commission, congratulated and thanked the party for its deep engagement in the process of reforming the country's state structure. Organized by the Consensus Commission, the program was attended by Senior Advocate A.K.M. Juglul Haidar, a member of the party's Presidium, Advocate Shagorika Islam, convener of Mohila Gonu Forum, and Organizing Secretary Mirza Hassan were present at the event. Most of the political parties have signed the long-awaited July National Charter on Friday. National Consensus Commission made last-minute changes to the July Charter, retaining the proclamation of independence in the Constitution and adding provisions for legal indemnity for July uprising activists. Four left-leaning parties, the Communist Party of Bangladesh, Bangladesher Samajtantrik Dol, Bashod, Bangladesh JSD and Bangladesher Samajtantrik Dol Marxist, along with Ganoforum, had objected to the recommendations for removal of the Declaration of Independence March 26, 1971 and the Proclamation of Independence April 10, 1971 from the Constitution. Teachers from non-government MPO-listed institutions have rejected the government's approval of a 5% house rent allowance with a minimum floor of Taka 2,000 per month. However, they termed the move as first step towards victory. They vowed to continue their movement until their demands, including the 20% house rent of their basic salary, are met. It is our preliminary victory that the government responds to our demand, said Dilwar Hussain Azizi, member of Secretary of the MPO Nationalization Expectant Alliance, the platform leading the protest. But we are rejecting it. We will continue our protest, work abstention, hunger strike until our demands 20% house rent, Taka 1,500 medical allowance and 75% festival allowance are met, he told journalists. According to a Finance Ministry circular issued today, the government has approved a 5% house rent allowance of the basic salary for teachers and employees of MPO-listed non-government educational institutions effective from November 2025. Viewers, we are taking a short break. Please stay with us.
পায়ের নুপুর ছন্দ মনে হচ্ছে কি ছু দিয়ে জাদু মন্ত্র এক্স্যাক্টলি পায়ের নুপুর
অরিক্স স্পেশাল সেলিব্রিটি শো তারকার ঝলক দেখবেন প্রতি শুক্রবার রাত 9:30 মিনিটে।
ভালোবাসা একবার তুমি বউ কইয়া ডাকো।
হ্যাঁ গো,
আর কত দূর?
আরে আমি তো ফিডের গাড়ির লগে।
তোমার গরু হাঁস মুরগি মাছ তো অনশন শুরু কইরা দিছে।
কি কও? অনশন শুরু কইরা দিছে?
কেডা?
হাঁস মুরগি মাছ।
আরে ওগো মতি গতি দেখা মনে হইতাছে এসএফএ ছাড়া কিছুই খাইবো না।
হ্যাঁ গো, এসএফিটের খবর ওরা জানলো কেমনে?
আরে ভালো জিনিসের খবর ছড়াতে কি আর মাইক লাগে? খবর ভাসে বাতাসে বাতাসে।
আরে দেখো,
এসএফএর জাদু
সম্পূর্ণ নিজস্ব তত্ত্বাবধানে বিশেষজ্ঞদের সমন্বয়ে প্রস্তুত হয় এসএফিডের পশু খাদ্য। অত্যাধুনিক প্রযুক্তিতে তৈরি এই পশু খাদ্য যেমন নিরাপদ তেমনি স্বাস্থ্যকর। এসএফিড, নিরাপদ ফিড, স্বাস্থ্যকর প্রোটিন। এসএ অ্যাগ্রোফিডস লিমিটেড একটি এসএ গ্রুপ অফ কোম্পানিজের প্রতিষ্ঠান।
Grand Palace, 5-star chain hotel, Zinda Bazaar, Sylhet.
Welcome back. You're watching SATV News. News from abroad. Afghanistan and Pakistan agreed to an immediate ceasefire during talks in Doha after a week of fierce border clashes that were the worst violence between the two countries since the Taliban seized power in Kabul in 2021. The ceasefire between the South Asian neighbors has been finalized. Pakistan's Defense Minister Khwaja Mohammad Asif posted on X on Sunday saying both the sides would meet again on October 25 in Istanbul to discuss detailed matters. Qatar's foreign ministry, which mediated Saturday's talks along with Turkey, said the follow-up meetings were meant to ensure the sustainability of the ceasefire and verify its implementation in a reliable and sustainable manner. Pakistan and Afghanistan are seeking a way forward after the clashes killed dozens and wounded hundreds. The talks were led by Asim and his Afghan counterpart Mullah Muhammad Yaqub, both sides said. Protesters spanning all age groups, many with children and pets in tow, took in the streets en masse for No Kings rallies across the United States on Saturday, denouncing what they view as authoritarian tendencies and unbridled corruption of the US President Donald Trump. Organizers expect millions of people to turn out by day's end at more than 2,600 planned rallies in major cities, small towns and suburbs, challenging a Trump-led agenda that has reshaped the government and upended democratic norms with unprecedented speed since he took office in January. By all accounts, the demonstrations were largely festive, many featuring inflatable characters and marchers dressed in red, white and blue. The demographically mixed crowds included many parents pushing youngsters in strollers alongside elderly participants. There is nothing more American than saying we don't have kings and exercising our right to peacefully protest, says Lee Greenberg, co-founder of Indivisible, a progressive organization that led planning of Saturday's events. The New York Police Department said more than 100,000 people protested peacefully across all 5 boroughs and that the NYPD made 0 protest-related arrests. Events in Boston, Chicago and Atlanta also drew crowds. In Washington, demonstrations filled with streets as they marched towards the U.S. Capitol, chanting and carrying signs, U.S. flags and balloons. Many people and their dogs wore costumes in a relaxed carnival-like atmosphere. In downtown Houston, U.S. Marine Corps veteran Daniel Aboyd Gomez, 30, joined a crowd that officials said numbered about 5,000 at City Hall on Saturday afternoon. Trump has said little about Saturday's protest, but in an interview with Fox Business aired on Friday, he said that they are referring to me as a king. I'm not a king. The Rafah border crossing between Gaza and Egypt will remain closed until further notice, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on Saturday, adding its reopening will demand on Hamas handing over the bodies of deceased hostages as the two sides continue to trade blame over ceasefire violations. Netanyahu's statement comes shortly after the Palestinian embassy in Egypt announced that the Rafah crossing, the main gateway for Gazans to leave and enter the enclave, would reopen on Monday for entry into the Gaza. Netanyahu's government and Hamas have been trading blame over violations of the US-mediated ceasefire for days. Late Saturday in Washington, the State Department said it had received credible reports indicating an imminent ceasefire violation by Hamas against the people of Gaza. The State Department said the planned attack against Palestinian civilizations would be a direct and grave violation of ceasefire agreement. Should Hamas proceed with this attack, measures will be taken to protect the people of Gaza and preserve the integrity of the ceasefire, the department said in a statement without providing further details. Trump had said he would consider allowing Israeli forces to resume fighting in Gaza if Hamas fails to uphold its end of the ceasefire deal that he brokered. Hamas did not immediately respond to a request for the comment. The militant group has launched a security crackdown in urban areas vacated by Israeli forces, demonstrating its power through public executions and clashes with local armed clans. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned on Saturday that the war in Gaza would not be over until Hamas was disarmed and the Palestinian territory demilitarized. His declarations came as Hamas's armed wing, the Ezzedin al-Qassam brigades, handed over the remains of 2 further hostages on Saturday night under a US-brokered ceasefire agreement. The Israeli military said late Saturday that a Red Cross team received the remains of 2 hostages and the coffins were on their way to its security forces in Gaza. The issue of the dead hostages still in Gaza has become a sticking point in the implementation of the first phase of the ceasefire. Israel has linked the reopening of the key Rafah crossing to the territory to the recovery of the hostages' remains. Netanyahu cautioned that complementing the ceasefire's second phase was essential to ending the war. He said late Saturday that phase B also involves the disarming of Hamas and the demilitarization of the Gaza Strip. When that is successfully completed, hopefully in an easy way, but if not in a hard way, then the war will end, he added in an appearance on right-wing Israeli Channel 14. Hamas has so far resisted the idea, and since the pause in fighting has moved to reassert its control over the Gaza Strip. China has accused the US of stealing secrets and infiltrating the country's national time center, warning that the serious breaches could have disrupted communication on networks, financial systems, the power supply, and the international standard time. The US National Security Agency has been carrying out a cyber attack operation on the National Time Service Center over an extended period of time, China's State Security Ministry said in a statement on its WeChat account on Sunday. The ministry said it found evidence tracing stolen data and credentials as far back as 2022, which are used to spy on the staff's mobile devices and network systems at the center. A crocodile took a dip in a luxury hotel pool in northeastern Australia this weekend but failed to stare guests who relaxed in the sun a few steps away. Video posted on a social media showed the juvenile carnivore lying on the bottom of the pool at the Sheraton Grand Mirage Resort in Port Douglas. "I don't want to alarm anyone, but there is a crocodile in the Sheraton pool," TikTok user Lisa Keller said in a video showing the scaly predator. A handful of tourists could be seen taking it easy on the sun lounges around the edge of the pool, though none ventured into the water. Before ending, we go through the headlines again. Dhaka airport fire, smoke persists, efforts on to douse flames, extra flight fees to be waived for 3 days. No attempt to pit the BNP against the July uprising will succeed, says Salahuddin. Remarks come amid criticism for NCP and Jamaat. EC spineless, works with institutional autocracy, says Hasnat. Shapla can't be allotted as it's not on official list. You're updated with our top stories so far here on SATV, and to know the latest news, visit www.satv.tv. Stay with SATV.